Imagine being able to have the freedom to not have to have credit cards, car loans, any kind of debt. I have paid off over $60,000. For me, that was huge, and that was my driving force. What's up, beautiful people? I'm Tanisha, and welcome back to my channel, Tanisha Inspires, where I'm here to help you transform your mind, your body, and your soul. In today's episode, I am talking about how I have paid off over $60,000 in roughly 2 years, and I'm so excited to share the techniques that I've learned. A lot of these are from Dave Ramsey and things that I've just tried, trial and error, and I'm so excited to share that information. Again, I will have several videos because it is a lot of information to get at one point in time. So let's get started. Being debt-free should be on your bucket list of goals. It should be something that you strive for. Imagine being able to have the freedom to not have to have credit cards, car loans, any kind of debt. Imagine that lifted off of you and you can go and drive whatever you want to do and do whatever you want to do. Imagine having the freedom to maybe not even go to work because you've saved so much money or invested so much that that's now an option. Having debt limits your ability to make moves. Now, I'm not saying that, debt is the root of all evil, but I have heard people say, and it also is in the Bible, that the borrower is always slave to the lender. For me, that was a driving force because at the time I had a little daughter and I wanted to give her the things that I never had. I didn't want to be able to tell her, I'm sorry, baby, I can't give that to you because mommy has no money. For me, that was huge and that was my driving force. So I'm gonna walk through today how I paid off over $60,000 in such a short period of time. Number one, I laid out all of my debt. For a long period of time, I really didn't know how much I owed, I didn't know who my creditors were, and I really didn't know where to get started. So I just kind of researched the internet, and then I ran across Dave Ramsey, and Dave Ramsey kind of walked through laying out your debt and understanding where you're starting. So for me, I said, okay, let me look at that. I didn't know what apps to use, but I did find Credit Karma because it was free because I had no money at the time. And I looked at all the debt I had, and I remember it being probably $80,000 at the time. I ended up racking up more debt in getting another car, but we'll talk about that later. I did share that in one of my previous videos. But what I ended up doing is once I laid all that information out, I actually wrote it down. It does something to write down your debts. And then what I looked at is I had $22,000 of credit card debt. So for me, it was really hard to say, okay, let me pay the lowest credit card and move on to the next one, because I felt like the interest always increased because it was a variable rate. And with credit cards, you always pay the minimal is what most people do, but like it takes you forever to pay it off. And so I had tried to do that over the last couple of years. It didn't work for me. So what I ended up doing is I consolidated my credit cards. So this was huge. What it did is it did a couple things. I went to a different credit union and I refinanced that. I put $22,000 into a loan with a fixed amount, and I knew that I think I gave it 2 years to pay off that amount. And what I did is it forced me to pay this every single month. With credit cards, sometimes you're like, oh, well, I may just pay like the minimal amount, or I may just do this. But like when you have a fixed amount that's due every month, you are going to pay it. So for me, I did that, and that helped me really trigger myself to say, okay, I am really doing this. The second thing it did is it now gave me freedom and flexibility. I cut up all my credit cards though. I cut up every single credit card, which scared me. But when I cut that up, my credit score went through the roof. I think I started at like 600, and after all of those credit cards moved to a personal loan, that went up to I think 680 or 690. So having freedom from your credit cards and not having that revolving credit on a monthly basis, that really helps increase your credit score if that's something that you're looking to do. So once I did that, once I let out all my debts, I looked at, I had credit cards, which again, that was gone. So I now had that personal loan. I then had car payments, and then I still had student loans, and then I owed people money. So what I then did is I said, okay, I'm gonna start and do something that Dave Ramsey calls the Snowball Affect. So your snowball effect basically says you pay your lowest debt up to your highest debt. So what I did is I started paying, and I did it a little differently, y'all, because I was so sick of the $600 a month payment. It was larger than any other payment that I had. So I took that amount, I paid everything else as a minimal, and I put $600 every month, and if I had a little extra, I'd put a little extra towards that. I paid off $22,000 in 6 months. My savings account at the time, I probably had like $4,000. Now, Dave Ramsey says you want to keep $1,000 at all times for emergencies. So if your car breaks down or something happens, you at least have something. So for me, that was a little scary. I always wanted a little bit more because of my daughter. So I ended up bumping that up to $2,000, and then I took $2,000 of that $4,000. I put that towards my loan immediately. So bam, that was $2,000 gone. Any tax return money I got, I put towards that. Any extra money that I had, I put towards that. I cut out eating out. I cut out going shopping. I cut out doing all of that. I started side hustling. So there are a lot of great things that you could do. You could do Uber, you could do all kind of things out there. So I took any side money, I took all my little fun money, I took all of that. I stopped getting my hair done, I stopped getting my nails done, and I threw that at my debt. And that is how I was able to pay it off in 6 months. So quick recap. Lay out your debt, see how much you owe. There are a ton of apps that you can use. And then number 2, use the snowball effect. Now I'll go into more details in a separate video on snowballing, but again, the essence is you take your lowest debt, you pay that off first. Once you pay that off, whatever amount that you have as a minimal, you apply that to your next amount of debts. You create a snowball effect, and as you get to your last debt, you should have so much extra from all of those other payments that you had that last one should be knocked out super, super quick. So thank you again for watching another video. If you like this, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your feedback below on things that you have done, or tell me about your journey, or just tell me anything. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks, bye.